Hey man, how's it going? Hopefully I can inspire some people out there with this video. And hopefully I can do this more often. It's important to have a dream. And that's the basis of this video. As I reflect on my short journey I've had in life so far, I think the biggest thing that's really helped me out a lot was simply just having a dream, just dreaming. I grew up with not having much in life, and I'm still striving. I don't think I still have much, but the thing that constantly keeps bothering me and chasing me is having a dream. So if you're somebody out there that feels like life is not going too well, or you're young and you see all your friends and the people around you have the things that you seemingly want but you don't have, sometimes you might lose some confidence in yourself. Sometimes you might feel like other people are better than you because they got things that you might not have and desire. That's been the journey of my life, and that's why I have this channel. This channel is where a lot of the pain, the anguish, the anger comes to die here. Because as I keep evolving and growing, and as I'm making music about the things that have happened to me, I hope somebody would listen to that, pick it up, and apply it to their lives. Maybe I could save you some time. So this video is about this tweet here. I'll read it out before we dive into everything. Once you hit 18 years old, the clock begins. Once you're 18, you should know exactly what your plan is and already began execution. Once you hit 21, you're now UNC. You should have made your first 6 to 7 figures liquid cash. Once you hit 25, you should be clear about the rest of your life. I made this tweet because I did a lot of reflection and I just saw what transpired with my life. I believe I came from vastly worse situations than a lot of you guys that will be watching this video. I might be wrong. So if I could accomplish the things I put up, oh shit, what the fuck was it? Like I was saying, if I could accomplish the things I accomplished, and my bad, that was just a plastic. You see how paranoid I am. I'm extremely paranoid. I've had a really tough life. I'm always thinking somebody's coming after me. But it was just a plastic there. Yeah. So what I was saying is, the things I've been able to accomplish, if I could pull them off, I wholeheartedly believe anybody could do it. I'll talk about first being 10 years old to about 13. Before 10 years old, life is pretty much the same for everybody. You do not know you're rich or you're poor or you're fucked up or life is horrible or life is great. You just don't know. You're like 9 years old and 8 years old, and so I'm not going to talk about that phase. But when you're like 10 to like 13, you start to get an idea of what's going on with your life. When I was 10, between 10 and 13 or so, we had like the PlayStation 2 was the shit back then. So my friend, my neighbor, his dad got him a PlayStation 2, and we never had a PlayStation. So yeah, I spent time playing at his spot. I would go to his house all the time, and that's just been the story of my life. It seems like, I was raised in not the worst neighborhoods, but fairly great neighborhoods. My parents never got me a lot of shit, not because they were poor or anything, but I don't know why. They just never got me. What the fuck is that? Anyway, they just never got me stuff as much as I would have liked. So video games, I have it's a bittersweet situation with them. I down the line, as I learned to get money on my own, as I learned to hustle on my own, as life went on, I was able to buy my own games and stuff like that. But younger, when you're always asking from mom and dad for stuff, they never got me. They never got me the games. And when they did get me, they got me a game that's way outdated. They got me something cheap as hell. So I was never up to par with the middle class rich kids that have like a big house and a big car and the mom and a hot mom. You know those kids. Never had that. So one thing I did have when I was young is I've always been ambitious, right? I used to play a lot of soccer. We call it soccer now, or football, depending on where you at. So I used to play a lot of soccer. I was a captain of the team, very competent. So one thing I never liked growing up was my school. It was like a Catholic school, and we were kind of isolated from like the schools that had like the really rich kids, like really really wealthy kids. And I've always had like the desire to network. It's always been intrinsically. I always knew I had to be around guys that have money or come from money or live with people that have money. I kind of already knew that, so I was always trying to push to be around people that had more than me. You know, so as I was captain of the soccer team, and I was trying to make a game happen with this school that had like the wealthiest kids in the city, and our coach, a teacher, seemingly, he he was slow about it, right? He was slow. I laughed because I did something that was fucked up. Funny though, funny in hindsight. So what I did was I tried to set it up, and I wrote a letter to the principal of my school, and I included my phone number there. So I always waited for the call. I just never knew when they were going to call, right? So one day I'm in class. I've been waiting days to get this phone call. I'm in class, and then the phone rings. It's the principal, and I'm in class. So I rushed to the restroom. I don't know how I got there. I just rushed. I didn't even ask for permission. You gotta like ask for permission in these schools. I rushed to the restroom and I picked up the phone and I started pretending I'm a grown man. And I'm not sure if he bought it. To this day, he played along. He played along. Anyway, down the line, the game never happened. It never happened. They kind of found out somebody was, he was trying to coordinate it, because I called the other school pretending to be the coach at my school, and I was calling the principal at my school, talking to him to coordinate the game, the dates, and so on. But I'm like 11, 12, right? Barely 13. I think 12 or 11, and I'm doing this. So I've always had like the intrinsic dream. I've always been a doer, try to make things happen. Yeah, so another thing I did was I was a huge Man United fan, Manchester United, from the Barclays Premier League. Side note, if you still watch sports today, anywhere, it's gay. You're gay. Sports are unproductive. But I was a huge fan at the time, and I used to think I'm gonna play soccer. That was the dream. The dream was I'm gonna be a soccer player. I'm gonna make it happen. But it never happened because I never pursued it, right? But one thing I used to do as well is I used to reach out to like Manchester United, and I used to DM like the players, Wayne Rooney. Just DM the guys saying, "Hey, I'm out here. Pick me up. I'm ready to go." So yeah, just fantasizing. Fantasizing is not delusion. You're not crazy for fantasizing. You have to fantasize. You have to dream. That's the only way you can start to, have that burning desire to do stuff. Another thing, so now, you start turning 13, between 13 and 16. I started getting into like girls, liking girls. That was a huge one for me. And there was this really cute girl I had a crush on. Very cute. And listen, if you guys are watching this, anybody I went to like primary school with, and they find this, they'll be like, "Ha, got him," because I denied it. Right? There was a situation that happened that I'm about to confess, which I denied, and it's years later now. A couple years, not too long ago, but a couple years now. Yeah, I did it. What? So this girl, gorgeous, by the way, gorgeous girl. We're in the same class. She's cute as hell, and I'm like not confident at all to ask her. I'm this badass guy thinking I'm on top of the world all the time in class. I'm like that guy. But this girl is like, I'm not that confident. I don't have the confidence to like, confess my feelings to the girl. So, because I'm scared it's fear, right? I'm scared she's going to say no, and it's gonna be embarrassing. It's gonna be a huge thing. So what I end up doing is figuring out where she lives. That was the plan. And the plan was I'm gonna go to her house. I'm gonna confess my feelings, my love. Right? And then if it works out, cool. She's mine. If it doesn't, I'll just say no, it never happened, and I'll keep the mystique of that guy. Very smart in hindsight. I've always been well calculated, huh? So that was a plan. And I ended up going to our spot, our house. I knocked at the gate. They had it was a gated community. I knocked. She came out. So good. I had a plan if her mom came out and so on. Actually, her little brother came out. I asked for the girl. He brought the girl. And I was like, hey, I like you. Right? And she was like, no, I don't want you know how girls are. Little girls. We're barely teenagers. We're like 12 or something, 11. Oh, actually 13, something like that. And she's like, no, I don't like you. It was so embarrassing. I ran off and all that crap. So that's another area in life. You're a kid. You think your whole world's over. Because that's your little universe there. And I went to school. Everybody was like, there was gossip going on. He went to her house. He asked her out and she said no. You know how girls be. And I'm like, nah, not me. Couldn't be me. Never did it. So you're thinking your whole world's done. Because that's everything you know. And that's where you exist. 13 to about 16. So 15 to about 16, 17, 18. I started to find out what I love. I love adventure. I started to find that I love, making music. That was a huge one for me. And I'm going fast through these chapters just so I can get to the point of you have to focus on what needs to be focused on, which is ultimately competence. But we're going to get to that. I started making music. It was fun. I loved it so much. I walked a lot of miles consistently. I spent all my money going to a studio. It was just, there was life. Like I found it. It's like I found that first love. One of the first songs I made was with some friends. We went to the studio. We recorded the track. And I went back home excited, Not really excited. So what happened with the first song was I fucked up big time. We went to the studio. We were all writing at the studio. This was peak Lil Wayne days, when Lil Wayne was at his hay. We were young, 13 or whatever, and we wrote our verses in the studio, and I was just fresh getting into high school. So the guys recorded their verses. It was my turn to record. It was getting late. I just couldn't, I fumbled. You know, there was pressure. It's my first time on the mic. The guys were confident recording their verses. They're older than me. They're like seniors or something like that. And I'm like the youngest there. And I fumbled. But I ended up recording my verse. It was not the dopest verse. And they took it off. Like I didn't pay for the track. I paid for the song. So, you think your whole world is over. You think things are just, you're living in your mind. It's your little universe. People are crushing your confidence as you grow. Having a huge ego, always thinking you're that guy, will never go wrong at any point. I kept going to the studio. I made a lot of mixtapes there, spent a lot of money. While you're in high school and your friends start to direct their energy towards different things. Some guys started to fall in love with the act of just women and fornication. Heavy at that time in high school. Some guys just became gamers, loving video games. Some guys loving sports. I started to gravitate towards creativity and making music and just being in the studio and making mixtapes and mixtapes and mixtapes. And I was extremely extroverted, but I am very picky towards, what I'm being extroverted about. I'm really extroverted towards opportunity. This is opportunity. I'm extroverted right now, but I'm very, very, very introverted as far as how I like to spend my time. It's always been like that. So time goes by around that time. I'm falling in love with studio time. I'm falling in love with riding bikes and just driving adventure. And then around the same time, early, I start hearing about, Bitcoin. Right? I'm like 13 or 14 or something like that. Way early. But it's been around for a couple years. And keep in mind, I'm in the middle of nowhere. In a place where nothing ever happens. So I hear about this Bitcoin thing, and I've always been just curious. Just having that curiosity. So I started looking into these things, and then I got on a call one day. Because I was trying to buy some. I got on a call, and I was talking to this Russian guy. And the guy asked me some security questions. Are you in this country and that country and that country? And I said no. And we had a conversation. And I asked him, what the hell is this? And he told me a story about the Bitcoin guy. And I was so intrigued. Like, what? Some guy just, yeah. And I'm a kid. And I asked him, what do you think is going to happen next? And he says, honestly, I think it's going to be around for a while. And we hang up. And I never spoke to the guy ever since. I tried buying it at the time. I got a couple, but let me not lose track. I moved to the state of Washington. I'm going to college. And life just flips. I had a very easy life. I used to think my life was rough. Boy, 1920, that's the peak of pressure. I am broke, poor, and my mom's not supporting me anymore. So now I have to work as a dishwasher in 2 different Indian restaurants. Think about that. Not as bad as it sounds, but have you ever worked for an Indian? I'd rather work for any other race than an Indian. Indians are not the best people. I hate to say it like that. So, worked in an Indian restaurant as a dishwasher. Not for long. And then going to college class. and then back home. It I don't know. It felt there was something off. There was just something off about that experience of like I need the money, so I have to go here, and then I go to college and I'm working like a pig. And then you've left everything and everybody you now know. I'm in a new place. I'm starting out in life, on my own. And everything you've ever known is behind you. That universe is just extinct. It does not exist anymore. And now it's a new alternate universe you're living in. So I'm trying to paint the picture for you guys that ultimately what's going to save you as you go in your journey in life is competence. Being able to do things efficiently, being sharp, not hindering yourself. And then everything that seems like it's a huge deal, betrayal, friends, all these things, it all goes to pass. It never lasts. If you find a friend that lasts, you have something precious there. But 9 times out of 10, all your friends right now, everything you know, everything you're doing is going to pass. It's going to pass. And you're going to have a new universe, a new reality with new people that's going to move on. So, 1920, I suffered a lot because I had to feed myself, clothe myself, shelter myself, and educate myself. I moved out when I was 18. So 1920 was rough. And then I'm in college with all these Asian kids and all these kids from all around the world. Principle number one, as a kid, always gravitate towards people that seem to have more than you. That's kind of what I did. And I became very close to a very smart kid that had a very successful company. And he helped me out. That's when my technical career at least began. And this kid introduced me to a few people. I met more people. And then the Bitcoin thing came back in loop. I met this guy that was mining Bitcoin heavy. Was mining it like... Anyway. So that little adventure in college and turning 21 and 22 and living college and making a lot of money from being around that guy and the other guy that was mining Bitcoin and meeting one of the first guys to create a Bitcoin ATM. Just things were happening now. Just gravitating towards people that have more than me, right? Having humility, knowing that I need opportunity, and just being curious, remaining curious, and remember, competence, right? All my friends, everybody I ever knew, none of them are here. I'm meeting new people, and I'm doing new things. So that changes my life. I now have increased my capital. I am now a man from the pit latrine with some money. I can buy a car. I can buy this. And, you're 21, 22, 23. You're splurging. You're splurging. You're up. You forgot about everything, And I'll make more videos about this chapter in my life because it's one of the greatest. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. So your life changes. And then you start to, hit 23, 24, 25. You start getting closer to like Unk status. You're now Unk. And then you've lived. Because everything, listen, my depression came from not having. So I'm thinking, if only I had some money, man. Like, if only I had more money. If only I had like a girl, a bad girl, a car, a house, this, I'll be up. I'll be good. Like, what? And then you have all these things, but still feel unfulfilled. You look back and you've made money, but you've not completed the mission. You've not done certain things. And It's a weird thing, extremely weird. I'll make a video about that. But something interesting starts to happen as well during this phase. When you're coming from the bottom and you have nothing and you get some money, you want to help people. You just want to help the guys that you came up with, like the day ones. The dream's always been for the day ones to come up with you. And it should. If you have some day ones that you grew up with and they remain competent, you're on the same page, you're evolving together, growing at the same pace, that's rare. Never lose that friend. But 99% of the time, you're going to have to start leaving people behind. I'm pretty sure you've heard this before, but I don't think you understand this well. You have to leave people behind. Not everyone can be helped. And not, as you could tell, people start to die off at different stages. I loved soccer. That dream died. Like, I don't care about who watches. I don't give a fuck about sports. Some guys remain liking that. And the next chapter will come where you just like hugging, talking, texting, kissing girls and playing video games. That chapter has to die off. Some people stay there. And then the next chapter comes where you think you could build a business and through just hustling and selling stuff. But that chapter has to die off. You're going to have to build a real company that contributes to something, to society. And then that chapter is going to die off and so on. But if people are not evolving, and as you encourage them to evolve, you're not seeing that, you're going to hold yourself back. So the hardest thing about your journey between 20 and 25 is leaving people behind. That's the hardest thing. It's going to be extremely hard to leave the guys that you grew up with, that you care about, that you still love. Family including, whatever. But you're going to have to leave those behind. And you're going to have to move on. So, the only thing that you always consistently have to take with you at every point in your life is competence. And the only thing you're going to look for in other people will be competence. Can this guy get things done consistently in our journey in life? That's the only thing you're constantly looking for. So, the time to Fortnite around, the time to play video games around, is going to come to an end. Everything will eventually come to an end. But the one thing that will always stay with you in your lifetime is competence. So, find competent friends. Be competent yourself. And you're going to be just fine. So that's my little take here. I want to leave you guys with this one thought. There's a saying that goes, man's greatest burden is unfulfilled potential. We have so much potential to do so much. But life starts to call us. And the burden that we all live with is unfulfilled potential. I don't care how successful the person you're looking up to is. They haven't fulfilled their ultimate maximum potential that they could be doing. So you have to understand this and try to fulfill as much as you can. Try to. I would like to think I've fulfilled my potential, right, to the maximum ability. Because for the last, 5 years or so, I have spent my time alone. 98% of my time is spent alone. Because of the journey I have chosen to do. And I have been able to pick up on a lot of skills. I'm naturally an extrovert, forced to be an introvert. And I've picked up a lot of skills from this. Which comes back to competence. So having zero tolerance for incompetent people, it might seem harsh if you do it, but it's the only way you're going to survive. You're going to need competent people. And you're going to need to be extremely uncomfortable for a very long period of time. It's extremely I'm alone right now. It's extremely uncomfortable to be alone. Never going to get used to it. But you have to. You have to. And so hopefully I make more videos like this, as I'm gearing up for the next chapter. See you guys soon.